Nightwing issue 98 and 99. I'll be reviewing them all as one story. So first things first, do these covers in any way, shape or form connect to something that's happening inside of the story? Sure enough, the first one does, to which I give a 7.5 out of 10 and a 7 out of 10. So now it's time to move into the internal art, as well as some of the things that are happening inside with the story, with the first one. And of course, as we know, Dick Grayson gets an appearance by someone calling themselves Nightmite. Of course, this is to help self-aggrandize Taylor, thinking he's the bestest thing ever. I'm sorry, but I think the bestest thing ever in this is actually Bruno Redondo, not necessarily Tom Taylor. But you do get him somewhat playing around a bit, and we, of course, see something that Nightmite has sort of done into true. Doesn't mean it's going to actually happen. As things progress in the story, Nightmite informs that he is going to need to help getting someone who has been somewhat harmed or captured, that person's name being Olivia. We encounter some type of monster, and of course, last but not least, which they end up heading out. Moving into the next issue, continuing off where the story left off, we have some things happening in relation to Melinda Zuko and Nightwing. DC is welcome to kill off Melinda Zuko just to help get rid of a Tom Taylor creation. Of course, in this encounter, he also catches up more with Zuko once again, and he meets a couple who call themselves Double Dare, to which they are actually twin sisters and like to play with their prey. Story continues, he moves forward. Until last but not least, we move into the prison and we have Melinda Zuko trying to make herself look like big crap. Personally, I hope G kills her off. I'd be happy with it. I was fine with Nightwing being an only child. So, that's the end of the story. Of what we get to see in the story. For the internal art, great work by Bruno Redondo, 7.5. Now it's time to move into the story rating. Now, first things first, did we get any comic references? No, because Tom Taylor is a lazy bastard. Period. Moving into the next thing, the area of time. Something that is actually addressed and really good too. In the area of time, we had now, later, next day, and of course a day later, to which a lot of these things took place in Bloodhaven. We had the Gotham Woods. We also encountered the Hold. And last but not least, a private prison somewhere in Bloodhaven. The cast of characters consisting of Nightwing, Batgirl, Nightmite, Bitewing, of course, who was able to talk because of Nightwing did stuff, or Nightmite did stuff. Olivia, who was taken captive. Salvatore Maroni, Tony Zuko. We had Alika and Margot Markel, who were Double Dare. and I really like that. And last but not least, we had Melinda Zuko. Overall story rating for this, a 7 out of 10. Until then, let's keep it colourful and have yourself an awesome day. The Nightwing Annual, as well as Nightwing Issue 100, both by Tom Taylor. So I'll move things out to the first one, and I'll be rating these together as their own story. So the art cover for the first one give us an indication of something that's happening going inside with the actual story. Sure enough, it does, to which I give it a 7.5 out of 10. I'll be rating the art as 1 with this one and also issue 100. So to the internal art in relation to the story, and as things begin, we end up meeting with someone by the name of Gerald Chamberlain, and we see that Gerald Chamberlain ends up meeting with the Lyle family, to which he ends up meeting with the character of Shelton Lyle. Now, we actually get to learn who this Shelton Lyle is and how he plays a part in regards to the Heartless story. So I'll just jump a little bit more as things continue. As he grows up, eventually we learn that he's actually the kid that Dick Grayson stood up against when he was younger. So bringing in something back from the original, and then not long after that we move into somewhat the next story in this, and we get to see Wing. And also what's happening with this. Now, I'll be rating these all as one story because there's actually quite a number of different writers. And of course, a little bit of nepotism here. In regards to, well, the doggy Nightwing getting his own statue. I'd prefer to Alfred one of sorts, more so than this one. And as we start to move towards the end of this, we get to see another story involving Nightwing and Bendis Boy. As they help each other out. Until we see how it reflects on how it's played a part in his past and help in guiding the future. So for the first story, so story 1, consisting of the Nightwing Annual, I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. There were some things in there I enjoyed, as well as some other things. I think the best thing in here that I sort of enjoyed the most is that we actually got to learn who Heartless was. And that was the key best thing. Then, of course, there was what was done with Bitewing, and then last at the end, having to do with Bendis Boy and Nightwing. It's now time to move on to the next one, which is the Nightwing issue 100. But a bit of a surprise here, I happen to have a main plus a variant cover. So I'll probably quite likely use the variant cover to show the internal art in relation to this. And I'll get covering of the internal art rating soon enough. So first things first, covers in any way, shape or form connect to something that's happening inside of the story. And the first one, a little bit, but not a lot. The second one, a little bit more so. So for the first cover, I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. I do actually like how this cover has been done. Though I would do some slight changes to it, but it was a really good job in its execution. The next one I actually gave a 7 out of 10. So now it's time to move into the internal art, as well as some of the things that are happening story-wise. And of course, within this one, we encounter the big bad Heartless once again. And as we go to Heartless, we go to basically Rosebud Prison. No doubt this is probably a little bit of a hint, and I guess Tom Taylor's own, what's the word I'm looking word? A bit of a self-doxing of the area where he quite likely lives. So with that, he only has himself to blame. Because there is a place in Victoria where I live. It's actually along the coast, or the internal coast, and it's called Rosebud. So that gives you an idea. As the story continues, we basically see Heartless basically give off his own prison reform speech. But one thing I want to bring up is the difference between the Nightwing one and the Heartless one. They both sound the same, just different goals at the end. One's the killer and one's not. Though let's not forget when Nightwing has also killed Talons before, because they're practically somewhat the undead. So I guess he's going to forget about that, cause story plot reasons. Of course, he goes up against those who are pro Heartless, and then last but not least, he gets a little bit of help from the Titans. We, of course, catch up with KGB Beast. More Titans work. And, of course, catching up with some members of the Justice League in the present. So, seeing I'm not completely finished with this review, there is some other things I need to address, and that is references. Did we, for the internal art for both of them, I gave them a 7.5 out of 10. Now it's time to move into the story. As you already know, for the first story, I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. But for story 2, we'll get to that. Now, these are the things that were practically in between both of them. So we did get comic references to issue 78 and 96. So it's nice to see some of those gaps being filled in the story with these comic references, because beforehand there weren't as many comic references, and it really screwed up the continuity. Then we have the area of time. So between them both, we had then, now, weeks ago, day later, and a month later. The locations we had in this were Bloodhaven, the Batcave, the Wayne Manor, Gotham City. Of course, we had the apartment as well of Dick Grayson, and the Rosebud Prison. The cast of characters consisting of Gerald, Jane, and Charles Lyle, along with their son Shelton Lyle, who becomes Heartless, to which the only thing that Dick Grayson hasn't learned yet is that this person is actually Heartless yet. And it would have thought by now, seeing that we, the audience, know who he is, how come Dick Grayson doesn't know who he is? Is Tom Taylor making him as dumb and stupid as he is, the writer? Time will tell. Of course, we had Nightwing, Bitewing, Poison Ivy, Catwoman, Mr. Freeze, Alfred, Bendis Boy, Oracle, Elephant Man, the Titans, of course, that made their appearance between both, KGB Beast, Wonder Woman, and Superman, also, in other words, members of the Justice League. The overall rating for the second one, issue 100, I gave a 7 out of 10. Until then, let's keep it colourful and have yourself an awesome day.